Good morning everyone. Welcome back. In the previous classes, we were going through the different constants. And those constants were integer constants, character constants, floating point constants, string constants, null constants, as well as Boolean constants. Today we are going to see separators as well as operators. Initially we started with 5 types of tokens. We saw keywords are there, identifiers are there, literals are there. Among the literals we studied all the types of literals, 6 types of literals till the previous class. Today we proceed with 2 more kind of tokens, that is separators and operators. See, what are separators? Separators are used to separate one part of the program from the other. For example, we know we have used curly braces for converting one function from the other one, separating one function from the other one. Then we had parenthesis. After the main, you were putting this parenthesis. After the system.out.println, you were putting it. That is separate. Semicolon, comma. Like that, we have so many separators. These separators are used to separate the code in between. Now let's see about operators. What are operators? Operators are the symbols which are showing certain operation. Different types of operations are there. Arithmetical operation, logical operation, then so many, relational operation, so many operations, shift operation. So all together in Java, 37 operators are there. We can see common, plus operator, addition, minus for subtraction, multiplication, modulus, division, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, shift operator, etc. There are totally 37 operators. And few of the operators you have already studied. We will go through all these operators throughout the class 10th syllabus. So, next one what we have to study is data types. You have studied in class 9th about the data types. So once again we will have to have a detailed study of the data types. The reason is, in Java, if you want to score the full 100 marks in class 10th examination or in the class 12th examination for the computer science and the computer applications, we should have a thorough knowledge about the data types. See, normally we have a tendency to neglect it, ignore it. Please don't ignore it, the portion what I am going to teach, because that is the basic principle which you have to learn from the beginning. And throughout your life in the Java, you should know about the data types. So let us go into that. So come to the data types. What are data types? Or what are data? You studied in the lower classes. Data is simply facts and figures. And so many things we are dealing in a day. Maybe price of an item, the name of your friend, date of birth of your friend, the place name, phone number of your friend, Like that, so many items we deal with in a day. These all things are known as data. And they are all different from each other, Suppose your name is fully composed of alphabets. In Java we call it as strings. Then price of an item, 499.99 paise. So it is in fractions. Then the phone number, 10-digit phone number. Place name, Mirza. Your address, 100/253 Awas Vigas, Mirza. So these all things we deal, they are entirely different. So we need data types to identify the data as well as to identify the associated operations with it. So we say data types are the ways to represent the data as well as to define the associated operations with it. So let's go deep into it. What are the different types of data types available in Java? The main category. Two main categories of data types are there. They are the primitive ones, and the second one is reference ones. Primitive one we call once again with another name fundamental ones, or we say intrinsic one. Intrinsic, primitive, fundamental, intrinsic, these are the data types which are part of Java. They are the part of standard Java. And what are reference data types? You will say immediately the class, object, arrays, then interfaces, etc. See, of course you are right. Reference data types are these ones. And why do we call them as reference data types? Because the reference data types are referencing another data item. Or we can say reference data types are pointing to another variable. They are storing the memory address of another variable. So reference data types are items which are pointing to the memory address of another one. What is memory address? Location. Cell address. Where do we store the value? That exact locations are taken out. So the address in cell address, memory address. This memory address we call in another programming language such as C language, C++ language and etc. as pointers. Once you learn C language, C++ language etc. in your higher studies, when you go for engineering and all, you will remember this name what I told you today. What is that? Pointers. Pointers are the data items which are pointing to the location of another data item, which are storing the address of another item. Now, as I said, we have two types of data types. We just keep the reference data types pending there, and we will go in detail throughout the primitive data types. Primitive data types can be of 8. There are 8 primitive data types. They are the byte, short, int long. Then we have a float double. Then we have a character as well as boolean. These are the 8 primitive data types. And I will categorize them into 3 categories because of its nature. The first 4 are keeping what? The whole numbers. Or we say that they are integer data types. Second ones are keeping fractional values, and we call them as floating point ones or the real ones. We studied, when we had real constants, we studied floating point constants or the real constants, which were represented in the fractional form as well as in the Mandiso and the exponent form. Next, other 2 are there. First one is for storing the characters. Second one is for storing the value true or false. So let us see one diagram to see the classification. See, first are whole numbers, second ones are fractional numbers, few are storing the characters, one is storing the characters, next one is storing the true value or the false value, which are the Boolean constants. Let's see one diagram. Data types are 2: primitive and reference. The primitive data types are mainly divided into numeric and non-numeric. Numeric can be divided into integer one as well as floating point one. In the integer one we have a byte, short, int and the long. Byte, short, int, long. In the floating one, we have a float as well as the double. Now, in the non-numeric, we can consider the character also as numeric because of one reason. But here I write it as non-numeric because they are used to store the characters. Only because of that reason, I may write it as non-numeric. So we have character as well as Boolean. So whenever you study this particular one, you learn it as byte, short, int, long, float, double, char, Boolean. Next thing we have to learn is the detailed study about each and every primitive data types. More detailed study about these data types we will have in the coming class. So, all of you have a nice day. Thank you.